Okay, boys, so we've had a little bit of time to look and play and feel about Diablo 4, and I thought I would give you some thoughts and opinions on the game. If you want to see gameplay, there'll be tons of footage on YouTube that you can have a look around. For me, I think I hit the nail on the head, surprisingly, when I called it in my last video that I think this is what Diablo's going to be like. I thought that the game would run well. I thought that the game would play smoothly, mechanically. It would feel good fighting, shifting your character around, quests, the audio, the cutscenes, the voice dialogues, all of this stuff I thought would be, without sounding like a meme because they're not that great anymore, but Blizzard quality. And I think it's a really, really solid game. There are a couple of things that I dislike, and a couple of things that are very worrying, but yet not surprising one bit. So we'll discuss them and not make this too long. For me, what ended up coming true, which is what I thought would happen, is it's the same old Diablo. What this means is you're going to be able to play through the game, play through the campaign, do a little bit of endgame, ramp up your build a little bit, maybe get a few specializations on some weapons, and happy days, you've beat the campaign, you've done a bit of endgame, you've experienced the build, and then you might move on to a new class with a new build. And then once you've done that and you've rinsed and repeated that process 3 or 4 times, you'll probably be bored of the gameplay, and then you'll move on, or you'll wait for a season, or you'll wait for some update that takes your fancy. For me, the Diablo 3 trailer came out 13 years ago. So in a way, it's 13 years later that we're seeing a Diablo 4, and I'll be honest, it's disappointing. That's the only way I can sum it up. It's disappointing, yet not surprising. This game, there are a lot of people that think it's going to be the Path of Exile killer. It's not. It's not even the same genre of game. Diablo does not try to pinch Path of Exile players. That's not what it does. What it tries to do is have a solid experience that works. You can pick a class, it works all the way through. There's very little break points of frustration, meaning they balance the skills and the numbers so you can smoothly progress through the game, and then you'll pick up some rares and you'll pick up some this and that and skill points. None of it's too important. None of it will absolutely brick your build because they don't want the user to feel too frustrated, like, oh, you chose the wrong passive tree, you need to start again. Or you optimize the wrong piece of gear, you've gone way into crit damage when you shouldn't do. No, the gear pretty much is self-explanatory. The meme green up arrow is good, red is bad. And that's kind of where the depth ends. Yes, there are some situations where you can find a legendary or a unique or whatever you want to call it, pinch the mod and put it on a weapon, but it's not that difficult to do. And ultimately what will end up happening is you'll just be playing to find your weapon and then shifting it onto the best one with the highest green arrow, and that's it. You're not going to be able to alter your build. You saw this when I played through Diablo 2. For the people that watched me play Diablo 2 recently, you got into Whirlwind, you put 20 points in Whirlwind, you look for some gear, and you spend the whole game auto-attacking, doing some Whirlwind action, and that's that. Diablo 3, you load in, you're already one-shotting stuff at level 1. It's the power fantasy that people want, and your character basically plays the same from like early levels to the end game. What ends up happening is people are on the Diablo scene saying, hey, the game's going to change. You can't judge a game based on the 25 levels that you've got. I agree. But let's be honest, from what we've seen, the higher tier content, it won't change the game drastically. It won't be the difference between, say, a Shaper and an Uber Shaper inside of an Elder and blah, blah, blah. It will just be more damage reduction and more attack damage. Therefore, you'll have to get more damage reduction, or armor as they now call it, and attack power. Otherwise, the gameplay basically plays the same. It just means you can't do the higher tier content because you don't quite have the stats to get through their damage reduction. That's how I imagine it will work. Most disappointing for me is just the overall theme of the game. There's a new rendering technique that I was discussing with a developer, and basically every single game kind of uses it now for optimization, and I think you lose a load of contrast in the scenes compared to old games. It looks washed out, it looks all one color, one landscape, and I genuinely dislike how the game looks. I think it's not even dark and gritty, it's just washed out and dark with bright colored Diablo elements all over it. To me, this looks more like Diablo 3 than, say, Diablo 2, or more like Diablo 3 than what I thought Diablo 4 would look like. There are some areas in the game that do look good, but a lot of it isn't great. Combat as well, we've still got the problem with melee just basically getting absolutely outclassed by ranged, and again, the skill tree is not very good. The frustrating part for me, or I say frustrating, but the reason I won't be purchasing the game basically is because I know that the developer will design some builds for me and they'll work. You'll play Fireball, you'll play your Hydras, you'll play Whirlwind, you'll play whatever you want, and they'll work. But you're not going to tweak a build. You're not going to find a unique and then create your own passive tree and create your own gear that doesn't exist through crafting, which you can do in Path of Exile. And they're just two different games. I like to be that person on Path of Exile that thinks, hey, I'll use this item that reduces lightning resist of nearby enemies. I'll transform all of these stats. I'll get this curse. I'll do this and that. And I can have a totally unique build. What you'll see is when you go on Diablo 4, everyone will be playing like, say, Sorcerer. They'll be doing the same build with the same set, same rough gear, and they'll just be doing the same content. And unlike, say, a Path of Exile or other games, you can't choose the content you do with like League Stones or your Atlas passive tree or whatever it may be. You're just going to play the content they hand you, and then when you run out of content, you're just going to effectively be doing the thing that you did in Diablo 3. Run the content, collect all of the rares, uniques, and blues, vendor them all, and then try and craft something that gives you a plus green arrow. And for some, that's enough. It's simple. You don't need spreadsheets. You don't need all of this. It's a fun experience. I'm not trying to say that Diablo 4 won't be fun and it won't be worth $60, because for $60, if you can play through the campaign 2 or 3 times and have fun and spend 20, 30, 40, 50 hours on the game and really, really enjoy it, but then be bored, where else can you buy 50 hours of entertainment for $60? You know, that's like a taxi and not even a night out, you know, or it's like a few takeouts or whatever you want to do, you know. It's a bad purchase on Amazon. So, you know, I don't think it's not going to be worth it. It's just not the game for me. I know it's not. Now, if I swap screens here and we take a look at just this, this is all you kind of need to see. If I pull up my desktop capture here, and I pull up my video capture screen, you'll be able to see that this here in the corner is Diablo 4, and what you'll see is you have like attack power, armor, life, and everything on the inventory is one block. There's no weight. The reason for that is they just want you to be able to pick everything up without having to do any Tetris inventory management. There's no weight. It all fluidly goes in, and then you can vendor it. You know, it's just going to be a case of all blues and normal items you get rid of. You don't even bother picking up. And if you look at the left-hand screen, this is Diablo 4, the mobile. Diablo 4, the new game, and Diablo Immortal, the mobile game, on the right-hand screen. They're exactly the same. Now, you might say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, visually, it just looks awful. There's a lot of the UI elements that just look straight ripped out of a mobile, and maybe that's not bad. Maybe the mobile version has the best UI, but in my opinion, it does not. If we take a look at an early work in progress from 2020, look how much better that looks compared to this. So this is what they were working on. This looks way more Diablo to me. This looks way more Diablo. Roughly the same, but ever so slightly different, right? And yeah, I'm just disappointed. I expected that, you know, what it looks like is they cranked out Diablo Immortal, and, you know, they thought, yeah, this works pretty well. Let's just enlarge on this kind of thing. It's not great. It's It'll be fun to play through the campaign a few times, and if you're bored of Path of Exile and you just want to chill out and farm something and try a new build, that's great. But for me, I don't like when a developer hands you a build. I like the choice. I'm going in and I can pick any skill, and I'm going in and I can try and make it work. With this, you're very much locked into the skills you're given, the tree you're given, etc. I don't think it's a case of you can pick a sorcerer and then make her do whirlwind and then convert that to fire and then wear a load of fire penetration uniques and create some, maybe it's not a very good build, maybe it only can do low level content, but you've made the build. With this, you just get given everything, and your job as a player is to basically put in every passive point in the wheel. Say, okay, I'm using Hydra, let's put all the passive points into the Hydra nodes, and then I'm just going to look around for gear that gives me a plus green arrow and vendor everything else that doesn't give me an arrow. You can see here that the inventory is just this one slot. Pick up all, and then you can press this button and vendor everything. And I'm not even trying to say that fluidity isn't a bad thing. Maybe playing inventory Tetris is a bad habit that we've all got into, and picking up everything that costs one slot is actually nice. But it just feels weird seeing somebody collect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like 33 two-handed swords in an inventory. It just feels weird. I feel a lack of immersion when watching and playing the game, and yeah, for me, it's not great, and that's all I've got to say on it. I think it's exactly what I expected. I think people will play it, they'll enjoy it, they'll say it's fluid, they'll say there's stuff to grind. For me, this is a console game that is an ARPG on the console market, which doesn't really exist, because Path of Exile kind of has to be played with a PC. It struggles with a lot of UI elements and a lot of min-maxing that you need to do, third-party tools, etc. So there's not really a brilliant ARPG on the console game. This will now work. The people that liked, say, Destiny, there was another ARPG kind of farming style game on Game Pass, Outer Wilds, I think it was called. Not Outer Wilds, Outer Worlds, maybe. I can't remember the name of it. Somebody will re-jog my memory. There was a game that, you just farmed, and it was miserable. I honestly think this is what this is. This is catering for the console market on the next generation systems that want to play something a little bit different. They're not into shooters, but they don't want a hardcore grind or run spreadsheets and do path of building and all of this. For me, it's not a game I'm really interested in. It just looks bland and miserable. That's my opinion. You can dislike it or agree or disagree, but at the current time of playing and seeing things, that's how I feel about the game. Let me know what you think, boys. Take it easy.